What advice would you have for the new provider, be it EMT, paramedic, nurse, doc, that is a believer just coming into emergency medicine?
Well, I guess I'd say a couple of things. The first thing I would say is what I tell anybody who's like new to the church, for example. Build your faith now while it's easy. Because when life gets hard, if you don't have a foundation of faith, you're going to question, where's God? Why is it this way? You know, if you really spend time with God, you end up not being the person at the end who says, why do bad things happen to good people? You don't say that because you know the answer at the root of it all. You don't have a clear, here's how I put it into words sometimes for the other person who asks you that, but you know that question's invalid. So build your faith in the easy times so that the hard times, which are coming in these jobs, in medicine, so your faith doesn't get shook. All right, that's one. Number two, I'd say go get it, man. You have more reason than the average human being who doesn't have faith in any higher power or belief system or ideology or religion. You have more reason than anyone on the planet who doesn't believe to do this job to the best of your ability, to strive to do it better every day, to want to learn more about where you're at every minute, to want to take every learning point from every interaction you possibly can. You're held to a higher standard, and that's a good thing. You are held to a higher standard. If you have faith and you choose to be an EMT, just like anything else you would have done, you are now held to a higher standard than the average individual in that job, and you know it because you believe that God's looking down going, I gave you the desire to do that. If it's your calling, you're capable of doing it to absolute best of your ability. So you should be motivated to learn more, to be exposed to more, to see more, whether they're good or bad as we label these interactions in the world. You should want to soak those up to be the absolute best that there can be in that position because you're holding yourself to a higher standard. You believe you're held to a higher standard, and you believe that you have the capability to be the absolute best version of yourself in that position because you're given the ability to do it. So be motivated. Be motivated by your faith. I found myself here and I'm a believer. Those two things equal, I am about to have a real good time. I am about to be excited to approach every shift and every interaction, learn something new, and do better every day because you're called to it. You have a standard. Mm-hmm. Other people can say they have a standard, but they're making up their own standard if you don't have a God.
What is something that still brings you joy about emergency medicine?
Almost everything. Almost everything. It'd be a shorter list to say the things that don't bring me joy. Despite all the hardships of emergency medicine, the short list would be what bothers you about coming in. Because the big picture is almost everything. I love the fact that I don't know what's coming through the door next. Even though that's a stressor, it's doing a hard thing, and that I enjoy. I love knowing that I might not know the answer, so I got to seek to find it. I love interacting with so many types of personalities and age ranges in the world because most people, again, we are made for interaction with other humans. I can't think of hardly any other job where you're going to interact with so many varieties of people. And yes, it's stressful, and that's good for me to learn, like Paul wrote in the New Testament, to adapt and be all things to all people. That doesn't mean embrace everyone's everything, but to be all things to all people, to learn how to interact with everyone. I know it's good for me, mentally, emotionally, physically. I love the intellectual challenge, probably the most. It's fun to do procedures, let's say. I've done, I think, every procedure in emergency medicine, especially working locums for a while out in the middle of nowhere places. The rare procedure that someone may never do in their career, I think I've done all of those at this point, which is pretty wild for an ER doc. And it's exciting. It's fun. Some of them are like, yeah, that's a one-time. I'd rather not do that again. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But the intellectual stimulation of this job is is the best part. When I see something that a second-year med student could come up with a differential 2 items deep, I'll see if I can get to 5, reasonable on that differential. The intellectual stimulation is the most exciting part. It's also the reason why sick medical patients are better than like the traumas and other things you think you see on TV. Most things about this job are pretty awesome. And then you add to that the fact that my family, they're well sheltered and they eat a meal every day. I mean, you make, let's be honest, top 5%, maybe, in this country, top 1% in the world income, even at a low-paying hospital system for being an ER doc. If you're going to complain about the income, even though the government's trying to take a little more away all the time for various things, if you're going to complain about the money you make for the job you do, I'd think hard about that. I'd think hard about that. There's a lot of people working mentally, maybe not emotionally, and certainly physically harder than us that aren't getting paid for it, So that said, don't complain about the money, right? That's a huge perk to this job. So there's a lot to be grateful for in emergency medicine that I don't know. I'm not a subspecialist, but I don't know that I could say that about every specialty, especially the thrill of it, the intellectual challenge of it. That's the best part, in my opinion. That's the best part. I love to be intellectually challenged. My hobbies are kind of nerdy. I read books on astrophysics. I play chess for fun on the side. I like to tickle my brain. And if my job, which is a large amount of my life right now in hours per day and days per week and weeks per month and so on, wasn't intellectually stimulating, I don't think I could do it, Speaking of not liking boredom, I don't like to be bored.
Well, I think you bring up a good point that you have to embrace the difficult. If you're someone who can't embrace that, like every one of my shifts is difficult for different reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the volume, the complexity of cases.
Yeah.
But if you can't embrace that and find some joy in that, you're probably in the wrong field.
You're in trouble.
You have to find some satisfaction in the difficult. I mean, like we were saying earlier, doing hard things is very fulfilling if you look at it that way. If you just get beat down by doing hard things, this is probably not a good field for you.
It won't be, right? Because there's not less people in the world every day. There won't be less people in the ER tomorrow. And people won't be less difficult than they are the next day. Things are getting harder out there for various reasons. So, it's perspective, how you want to look at that. Your choice, but I'd like to have a reason to come back to work tomorrow because I don't have a backup plan. I like what I do. Yeah.
How do you balance our unpredictable schedule, the demands of the ER, the shift work, with being present as a father?
Oh, I don't think it depends on how you meant that, but if you meant it how you said it, I don't think it's difficult most of the time. I'm going to give you an exception to this, but I don't think it's difficult to be present as a father outside of just the time frame. There are runs of shifts, and then you flip over from nights to days, and you can't function for a day, and you haven't slept. There are certainly physical time constraints that make it hard to be present, physically present as a father. But if you mean in my minutes off work and awake with my family, I am, in general, and this is not just me being arrogant. My wife has said the same over the years. Other people around me have said the same, and my kids keep me in check on this. I am present emotionally and physically present with them every waking moment that I'm not at work. And that's by choice and by training because it's important, because the physical time constraint is real in this job, right? If I get stuck with 6 shifts in a row and they're all night shifts and I'm not seeing them hardly during the day while I'm asleep, and then I get off and I got to go back to days in a week, and so one of those days I'm trying to flip over, didn't sleep well, now I'm in bed an extra couple hours. Physical time constraints to be present are going to present themselves, and they're hard, and they're there, and shift work will do that to you. But as soon as I'm functional and awake in there, oh man, I'm present because I know how important it is. I can't spare a moment in my kid's life because they are the priority. God, family, country, job. I cannot spare a moment in their presence without being available, without being sharp, without being present for them as they develop, and sharing what I need to share with them, hearing what they need to tell me before I go back to work. That's a fact. So that's not, I don't question that. I am present because it's a must.
And that's a hard thing to be present. Because that's what I strive for, right? Is to, especially on my days off, like you said, there's physical time constraints. I'm going to be physically at work, or I'm going to be asleep for certain periods of time. But when I'm awake and when I'm with my family, being mentally present, that's a hard thing to strive for. I think a lot of people probably struggle with that. I mean, maybe you're thinking about a previous shift, you're burned out from your last shift, you've gotten enough sleep, but you're still kind of mentally wrapped up in that previous shift, or you want to sit down and shut your brain off and do something, non-work related. You don't want to run around with the kids. You want to just park them in front of the TV because it's easy and you can relax while they're preoccupied.
Right.
How have you trained yourself to be mentally present all the time? Because I think that's a very hard skill.
Two things. It is. I don't disagree. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. Please don't hear me wrong. I mean, yeah, I'm preaching like this, but I don't believe I'm perfect in this, but I know I'm good at it. And you're right. It takes training. And two things. Number one, when it comes to putting the kids in front of the TV and all of that, yeah, it would be easier. We're not that household. I will not allow it. My wife is on board with that. I don't turn that TV on because I need them to be distracted. There has to be a good reason. We're not a screen household, all right? When they're on a plane, there's no phones and tablets in front of them. They'll read a book. We'll talk. They'll draw pictures. We have very little screen time because I think it's important. I try to model that after my upbringing, which is not fair to them because there's a lot of distractions around them. But I grew up poor, one TV in the household, no cell phones, no tablets. Obviously, this is the 80s. I model it after that in order to keep check on how much they're in front of a screen. So that crutch isn't there for me or for them, period. Our screen time is very little to none. My kids don't play video games. There's pros and cons to video games, and there is an old school remake Nintendo in the basement. Doesn't come out very often. Now, that said, the other one is God. So many benefits. So many benefits to believing. I know that he told me to cast my cares to him because he cares for me. And so I do. I wake up, I'm exhausted, I flipped over from nights to days, and that 5 to 10 minutes before I roll out of bed and hit the breakfast table with my kids, I roll over and I use my phone for that. I turn on the Bible app, the YouVersion app, I open it up, and I cast my cares. I'll do a little bit of a Bible study, I'll read that scripture and a couple of other ones, and I'll sit there for a minute or two in prayer and quiet and go, Lord, this is the time. I'm still tired. I am thinking about that crazy shift last night or yesterday. My kids are going to have questions. They're going to be talking the minute I get downstairs, and I don't want to be irritable about it. I need to be sharp. I've got a preteen in the house who wants to tell me her emotional side of things, and I want to hear it. I've got a lot about to happen the minute my feet hit the floor. So I'm going to cast my cares to you. And people go, oh, that sounds nice, but how do you actually, let's be practical about that. No, I am being practical about that. He told me I could do that. There is a promise that I'm going to take him up on because he's kind and he's there, sitting there with me. So I will cast my cares and let him renew my mind to get up and let it go. And a ton of people are going to be like, oh, just let it go, huh? Listen, all these cynical little comments, just because they don't work for you, don't mean they don't work for me. Me and God have a system sorted out. I am going to cast those cares and let him take them over and think about them another time or realize they're not worth thinking about anymore and dwelling on almost every time. And then I go walk that walk with my family. So that's the two most important things.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point because I think, one thing I've struggled with is, you have these certain cases where you ruminate on them a little bit. Did I miss something on that patient? Did I do the best thing? Maybe it was the volume and you're like, did I miss something in the busyness of the shift? Or a case just hit you a little bit harder. And it's so easy to take that into your day off and have that ruminating in the back of your mind. Yeah. But if you're allowing that rumination, you can't be present with your family. Right. You have to be mentally available to hear all the crazy things your kids want to tell you, all the questions they have for you. I got a 3 and a 5-year-old running around. Right. If I have something running through the back of my mind, I cannot be mentally present with them.
You're stressed, you're distracted, you're irritable. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The other thing to that is I do have those moments, obviously. I have had many cases where I can't get it out of my head the next day, kids especially. I look at my kids and I start to lose it over a kid thing. Mm-hmm. You know you're not there yet. You're not ready. It could be anybody, but for me, fortunately, it's my wife. 9 out of 10 times, she'll be in a mental state where I can pull her aside early in that day and say, I need 5 minutes. And I don't care if I bawl my eyes out. If I relive it to the extent that she can hear it, I don't have to go into every detail, but I'm going to share that with her or somebody and let that emotional outlet or offload occur and then go back. If I know in that first hour of the day, I can feel it. My wife can usually see it too and be like, you're not quite back to baseline yet. You're awful short. You're awful distracted. You say you're listening. However, I'll pull her aside and go, this is why. And I know it. Get it out. Get it out. And then go back to my way.
What do you do practically to get it out?
Oh, man, it all depends on the scenario. But what I mean by that is mainly talking, right? I'm not going to carry it alone. On that day, I'm not at work. I can't tell a nurse about it. I can't tell another provider about it. I can't be like, man, I had this kid die on me the other day and it's just driving me nuts. I'm at home. There's one other adult in that house who could handle me telling them most of that story and let me either cry it out or talk it out or both. So that's all I mean. I need 5-10 minutes to sit alone on the closet floor and not be okay. Would you hear me? Okay, maybe the TV comes on then for 10 minutes. That might be a reasonable time. And I'm going to sit with her and let all of that out in my words and my emotions and then go back and check back in. I think if you don't have someone for that, you might ought to in this job, you know. Honestly, I think I'll go this far and say this. If I didn't have kids, didn't have a spouse, didn't have a best friend in medicine in some way, and I did this job, I'd probably have a counselor in my back pocket. Mm-hmm. Period.
Yeah.
Just for that dump that's needed sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because there are days you're not checking right back in and being right about it like that. But having a wife that I can sit down and tell about it, that saves me and gets me back on par.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I was raised as an only child in an environment where I didn't, you couldn't always just let it out. Didn't have a lot of people around out in the country. At some point in my life when my parents split and I was on my own with my father, we're very good friends these days, but I never really knew how he would take certain things when I was young. So big emotional events, I usually just stuffed them in. And the older I got, the more I realized this is eating me. Mm-hmm. We are designed to be able to share the load sometimes.
Right.
Luckily, my wife is one that I can share most things with. Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like that's a non-negotiable thing on your days off, where you're physically present with your family. You want to be completely mentally present as well.
It's a must. Mm-hmm. And if I can't get there, I'll be able to generally identify why. Is it lack of sleep? All right, maybe you got to go back to bed for an hour. If you can't fix the sleep situation, you got to be careful not to completely compensate with caffeine, but sometimes you just need a little extra. If it's an emotional thing, I probably need to say something and get it out. That's time with my wife. If it's because I'm pent up, like me, I have a lot of physical hobbies. And if I haven't lifted weights because of an awkward set of 4 shifts in a row, I know why I'm irritable. I need to go to the gym. Mm-hmm. That's not purely selfish. My wife knows too. She has learned many times over the years, get your ass to the gym and lay on a bench. Like, that's going to change things in the next hour. And I can tell you're off and it's been half a day. I know one thing that's going to fix this. And I perpetually feel guilty about time away when I'm off. But I'll tell you what, that hour is probably going to change everything, and it's probably going to be worth it. Know thyself. So.
Well, taking care of yourself, even before you take care of your family sometimes. Is key.
In some way, I think it's all the time. Hence the Bible time in the morning. Mm-hmm. In some way, short time or sometimes longer time, yes, that's a fact.
Right. It's not like you're spending an entire day in the gym.
No.
But if you can get that hour of time that you need for yourself.
Right.
The rest of the day, now you can be mentally present with your family.
Yeah, and my family would attest to 6 phenomenal hours versus 7 50-50 hours. It's better. Mm-hmm. It's way better, and I would agree.
Yeah, in our line of work, quality over quantity is a lot of times very important.
Yeah, in a lot of things. That is very well said. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
If you could go back and give your younger self, young in your career, advice, what would it be?
Tell you what it wouldn't be. I would not look at my younger self and go, you got this. You're going to be great as an emergency medicine physician. I actually had to shut down people telling me that in solid moments over the years, throughout med school, residency, attending hood. Because again, this job is really, it's important that you know thyself. I'm cocky enough. Hearing that is a problem coming. What I'd probably tell myself is, stay scared, my friend, because I'm the kind of person that can handle that advice and not panic. I'm wired to take that as a challenge, but to do it more humbly than if I'm told, damn, man, you got that down. I'm going to take that and run with it. Not good in this job. I would tell myself, stay scared. Not humble. I would tell myself, because I know me, stay scared. You know, you're going to read articles that say once you're in attending for 3 years or you've seen 10,000 patients, you're an expert. Never consider yourself expert. This is not the field for it. I would tell myself the same thing I tell my med students, my NPs and PAs that I haven't worked with, but for a first shift, I would tell them, you don't know what you don't know in this realm of medicine, and this job is out to get you. Now, I don't say those words that way to everybody because some people are wired to panic and be driven away from it. I'm just not. My personality goes, not only is that a challenge that I'm willing to take, but thanks for saying that, so I don't step over the line between confidence and cockiness, because some of us just live on that line. If you know that's your personality, which it is mine, I need to hear that. I guarantee you that's what I'd say to myself. I'd say, here is you after 10 years of solid emergency medicine practice on your own. This job is still out to get you, and some days you still don't know that you didn't know the answer. So stay scared. That's what I would tell myself, and I'd be better for it. Yeah.
Do you have any practices at the end of your shift on your drive home as a believer, or just to get past the shift, that you exercise to help move on and make sure, if you're working an early shift, you have the rest of the day with your family. Yep. You got to get there mentally to be present for dinner, for bedtime.
Yep.
Any practices you have that you help get you into dad mode over ER doctor mode?
Yep. I'm not the person who exercises, believe it or not, after work. I'm usually physically and mentally drained enough that it doesn't happen. So I either go before or that's my day off most of the time. I am not someone who can go to the gym after, and I am someone who could go to the gym almost any time. After a shift, almost never going to happen. So that's set aside. I know that because I'll be more irritated about a crap workout. Praise and worship music, nonstop. Loud, windows down, and I sing. I don't generally do it in the morning on the way to work. I do listen to a lot of music. I don't have a lot of quiet time when I'm by myself in the car. It's almost always music. But if I'm going to listen to an audiobook, if I'm going to listen to NPR News, if I'm going to listen to a podcast on medicine, I'm probably going to do it while driving to work or on a short drive somewhere on a day off, not heading to the gym. But heading to the gym or heading home from a shift, music's going on, music's going up, I'm singing to myself. And I forget everything else.
Is there a particular song?
No. I'd be hard-pressed. There are genres. My Pandora's been built up for 25 years. I am not of the new generation. I do not know what Spotify is or how to use it or whatever else is out there these days. I just don't. So I've built my Spotify stations to be pretty huge, and they're all labeled the same, man. There's Dead Man Walking Radio, which is all Christian music. There's 70s classic rock. There is Thievery Corporation Station, which is no lyrics, just music, electric beats and whatnot. And there is Chopin Classic Radio, which is mostly piano, but not all. That about it. I think that's about it. I have to look on there. Yeah.
I found there's one.
Oh, and Lecrae Radio, Christian rap, and that's about 95% of what I listen to.
I don't think I listen
about
to any
95% of the time. The windows will be down. I'll be down anywhere I'm driving. I have 4 10-inch subs in the back of my truck. I'm a giant child when it comes to stereos. I don't buy a vehicle that I'm not going to put a massive system in. It's probably worth more than the vehicle in most vehicles I own. And it will be banging. You will hear it from 2 blocks away, and it's all Christian rap.
Well, I think that's something people underestimate is music can be really helpful to healing and moving on from a shift. There's one Christian song that I like. I think it's called Oceans. It's a praise and worship song. Yeah. But one of the lines in there is, it's going back to the biblical story where the apostles are all up on a like stormy ocean or lake or something, and they don't know where Jesus is, and then they see him walking across the waves, and one of them, gosh, I wish I could remember which one, got out, and Jesus wanted him to walk on the water.
Yeah, it's Lake of Galilee, and it's Peter. Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah.
And as long as his eyes are on Jesus, he can walk on the water and he's fine. But as soon as he looks down, he looks at the waves, the scariness, I shouldn't be able to walk on water, he starts to sink into the water. And one of the lines in the song is keeping your eyes above the waves. And that's been something for me for the last couple months, is just a really good, and I've heard that song for probably years, a decade.
Now. Yeah.
But, different scripture, different songs means different things to you in different phases of life. And to me, it's so important to remind myself daily to keep my eyes above the waves.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to look at the waves and all the little monotonous things in life that get in your brain and distract you.
Yeah.
And take your eyes off of Jesus, and our eyes should be on Jesus, and you can walk on water if your eyes are on Jesus.
Yep.
And so that's been a line for me, like, keep your eyes above the waves. I try to remind myself of that multiple times a day. What are your eyes on?
Yeah.
If they're not on Jesus, you're probably looking at the wrong thing, and you're probably sinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't possibly think of adding anything to that. Everybody's got a line. Everybody's got a scripture that's a believer. Everybody's got a song. But there's so many. I think the older I get, the more often I find that God makes something like that line stand out so strong that it becomes that for however long there afterwards, that's the one thing you want to hear, one thing you want to remember. Something speaks to you somewhere. I think right now, lately, there's a song, it's not very old, it's by Hillsong Young and Free. So Hillsong United is a group of adults out of Australia that do praise and worship music, been around forever. Hillsong Young and Free is like their church, and it's all the youth doing these songs. They have a live and a non-live or radio version of a song called All of My Friends. And says, all of my best friends are sick of pretending we want the truth, and I know it's you. And that one's really hit me recently because the world, especially the young, all these conversations about what is truth. And I'm like, that's not... There's a definition for that word. Stop trying to make up a new one. It's been around since the beginning of the language. And that song just reminds me of how much we're missing, I think. You could take that as depressing if you want, but it inspires me to hold on and to know that I've got the truth. If anyone wants to hear about it, I'm here for it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts? Anything you wanted to talk about we didn't talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about how you're going to monetize this thing and retire early. One of us should get out of the ER at some point. You seem to have a plan for that. I don't have a backup plan yet. No, man, that covers a lot of things. I'm happy to do this anytime, all the time. I don't care. Yeah.
Well, sweet. Thanks for coming back on. I appreciate you.
Yeah, always. Rocking.